So here we are at the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals here at Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park here in Norwalk, Ohio. I've been told by multiple people that this is a track that I should go to. This is one of the tracks I need to go visit. And honestly, I gotta agree. This is probably one of the coolest racetracks you can go to, even though it's in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, in the northern part of Ohio, a suburb almost of Cleveland, about an hour away. This racetrack is absolutely fantastic. The amenities they have here, the absolute diehard fans that show up for this race, the amount of cars that are here. Brian Lone said that this was kind of like a junior U.S. Nationals because of the amount of cars that are here and the amount of racing there is. And honestly, I gotta agree with him. This track is absolutely fantastic. I think this is a hidden gem of not just drag racing, but motorsports as a whole. Obviously, for the drag racing world, they know Summit, they know Norwalk. This is one of the best tracks on the tour, but this is honestly a very low, underlooked racetrack in just the United States of America and all of motorsports. I think this is a track that if you've never been to, if you've never been to 9 Under Fire, if you've never been to an NHRA national event, and you live in this area, come to this race. So, we have a lot to get through. I have interviews, I have press conferences, but we had a very fired up Bob Tasca, and he gave me a long-winded answer that I loved, so we're going to get straight into it. Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gaige Herrera, #1 qualifier. He gets a bye run, goes into the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. He red lighted the Norwalk Nationals, goes 2 for 2 in red lights in the first round of the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge against Hector Rana Jr. But even though he red lit in qualifying, it doesn't matter. He goes out there and runs, I believe, a 6.805 and goes #1 qualifier. The big question going into this event was the 5 pounds out of the valve heads. It was a huge question going into this, whether it was going to affect him or not. It affected him a little bit on the speed from what he said. We'll hear about that later. But again, #1 qualifier goes down to the second session. He runs a 6.785. So he's #1 qualifier. He's going to have a bye run due to the fact there's only 15 bikes. John Evaristo will face off against Ryan Ayler. Eddie Krawick will face off against John Hall. Steve Johnson, your winner from back at Bristol, is going to face off against Chase Van Sant. Matt Smith will face off against Chris Bostick. Mark Ingerson against Kelly Klons. Hector Rana Jr., who made the finals for the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge and almost hit that 200-mile-an-hour run in qualifying. He'll face off against Wesley Wells. And then Angie Smith, the winner of the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, will face off against Ron Torno. Moving on into Pro Stock. Matt Hartford is your #1 qualifier. He's going to face off against Fernando Quadra Sr. Derek Kramer is going to face off against Camry Caruso. Aaron Stainfield will face off against Chris McGahey. Greg Anderson had an impressive start to qualifying. Again, in case you didn't miss it, rain ended up being a big factor yesterday. It ended up raining out most of qualifying, and they ended up salvaging just Funny Car and Top Fuel, and Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle lost 2 rounds of qualifying. And as you can hear the cars behind me, and I forgot to mention this part too, because of the impending weather coming in tomorrow, they're looking at possibly thunderstorms throughout the afternoon. So because of that, they moved the start time up to 10 a.m. And as you can see here and behind me, there are cars on track. They're going to run them throughout the night, so that way, just like at Bristol, have all the cars out of the way, have just the pro cars, so that way they can get through them as fast as they can, so that way they have much time to get them on their TV window. So there's going to be a lot to go through. They're going to be running late into the night. They're going to open the gates at 7:30 in the morning. So that's why you hear these cars. Eric Anders, #2 qualifier, faced off against Eric Latino, the pro mod driver, making his first ever Pro Stock start. In his first ever qualifying run, he ends up scoring up the tires and coasts all the way down, but somehow still ends up running it in the sand trap somehow, some way. He talked about the fact that a lot of pro models guys are watching, and I can guarantee you right now they got a laugh out of that. Dallas Glenn will face off against Bo Budner III. Troy Coughlin Jr. will face off against Mason McGahey and Christian Quadra versus Jerry Tucker. For the guys who did not qualify, Fernando Quadra Jr., a big upset. He will not make the show, as well as Alan Pruzinski. Bob Tasca III and Funny Car, we're going straight there. Bob Tasca III will face off against Bobby Bodie. Cruz Pedregon, #8 qualifier, faces off against John Forrest. Again, who would have thought that? Those two always face off against each other multiple times throughout the year. Alex DeJoria, one of my strongest picks for the Funny Car class, currently qualifies 4, face off against Dale Creasy Jr. Tim Wilkerson faces off against Paul Lee. Ron Capps, winner of the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, bumps himself up to #2, faces off against Dave Richards. Chad Green against Mike McIntyre. Matt Hagan against Alex Laughlin. And J.R. Todd against Blake Alexander. And then lastly in top fuel, Leah Pruett, back-to-back #1 qualifiers. She qualifies #1 here at Norwalk, is going to face off against Kyle Wurtzel around #1. Mike Salinas qualifies #8, faces off against Antron Brown, who really seems to be getting his footing the last few weeks. Really seems to be finding that speed, qualifies #9, just outside the top half of the field. Doug Collette #4, big turnaround for them. Made it to the finals of the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, and just like I've seen for most of the season, squares the tire, spins it, whatever you want to call it, at the start, or about mid-track, giving it to Justin Ashley. Austin Prock faces off against Tony Schumacher. Steve Torrance will face off against Doug Foley. Justin Ashley, like I said, an emotional win for the team today, even though it's a Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge race. They lost Kathy Maynard, who was the co-owner of that car, I believe actually the owner of that car. She passed away this morning. A very emotional day for a lot of the teams, for a lot of the guys. They actually had a sermon at the beginning of the morning. And how does it pay back? We see Justin Ashley win the race, and they dedicate it to her and the family. You could hear the emotion in his voice. He's not as enthusiastic or as energetic as we usually see from him, and it shows. This win means a lot to him. He said this win means the most to him than it does any other race so far this season, just because of the fact they get to bring it back to Joe Maynard after everything that he's gone through today and the entire Maynard family. Looking further down into the bracket, I also want to point this out real quick. I forgot to say this. For the DNQs, the funny car, Dave Richards DNQs out of the race. Justin Ashley's opponent is Clay Milliken. Brittany Forrest will face off against Sean Langdon, and Josh Hart will face off against Spencer Massey. So, again, qualifying bumped up to 10 a.m. to try and get the event in. I'm going to try and get as early as I can because I have some interviews I want to try and get done before I leave here this weekend. I wasn't able to go to Friday. I come out here on Saturday. One thing I'll say, blistering hot tracks. Props to any team who's able to improve in that Q4 session. Because the weather definitely was not working in their favor, and we saw some incredible times. We have a lot of interviews to cover. We have a lot of drivers that have had comments from it. We had a lot of the #1 qualifiers and the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge winners come up there. Let's hear what they had to say. It seemed like the heat really came out for that second session. What change did you guys make from that Q1 run to get you to be able to make that quick run to bump you up to P1?
I wish somebody would have had a camera in our pits, because as Factory Showdown is running, transmission's still apart, there's 3 sets of tires laying there, and Eddie Granacci, my crew chief, and I are bickering back and forth about, are we going to try to run a tire and put a gearbox in it, get ready for tomorrow because we know what the weather's going to be, or do you think we can go to #1? I didn't drive very good in Q1, and so we should have been #1 after Q1, but that was a driver error. So if anybody could have stood around and listened to us just bickering back and forth, we finally said, let's try to go to the pole. Maybe the clouds will be in our favor. If we get a little bit of cloud cover, we're going to the front. So it was a very methodical process of setup A or setup B, and we chose setup A to try to go to the front.
So obviously probably the biggest story going into this weekend is the 5 pounds added to your guys' valve heads. What was the reaction that your team had to that, and what changes did you guys make to be able to keep the speed that you guys have, or did it really affect your guys' bike at all?
It affected us for sure. I mean, every 5 pounds, affects the motorcycles quite a bit. It affected our bikes mile an hour wise a little bit, and it affected our stopping too a little bit. I mean, I'm having a little hard time here. I skidded the front a little bit, but other than that, I mean, it affected the bike, mid-track a lot, but overall, Andrew always has a plan for everything, so he kind of expected something was going to happen. He wasn't sure it was going to be 5, 10, or they were going to do something else. So overall, it worked out. I mean, the field's a lot tighter than it was, so overall, I'm happy with it for sure.
Obviously, we can see that the emotion isn't exactly as enthusiastic because of what's happened today with the passing of Kathy Maynard. You just joined this group not too long ago, and now you get to bring this win back on what has been a really somber day. Just kind of take us through the emotions of the roller coasters that you've been through, and what does it mean to be able to bring that win back to Joe, considering what he's been through today?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to win a number of races, even this year a number of challenges, but this one stands out. Believe it or not, this win is more significant than any of the others we've had this year for that reason. We all got together, and RFC did a great job of saying a team prayer, and a bunch of teams were involved in it this morning, and it's an emotional day. We know that we have an angel with Kathy riding with us, and Joe and Josie and their entire family. We're all thinking about them. We're all praying about them. And this is the least that we can do, and we miss them out here. We can't wait for them to get back out here and join the family again with us. So it's definitely an emotional day, a tough day, but to be able to turn on another win light for Kathy and all that she's done for so many of us out here really is tremendously meaningful.
When this season started, obviously the big talking point is, can anybody break into that top 3? Many people overlooked you being the person to do it over guys like Cruz Pedregon and J.R. Todd. Being one of the only people in this class that can actually bring something to those 3 week in and week out, does that add like a little bit of a pep in your step after everybody doubted you going into the season to be able to actually go run against these guys?
Oh man, he wants to fire me up right now. Yeah, I can tell you one thing. There wasn't maybe nobody even in this media center that put $5 on me after my previous crew chiefs pretty much fired me, right? So I got fired by everyone but 2 people. I hired all the people that they fired to get my team. And at the end of the day, what a sweet serendipity it was, right? So it just goes to show you, you can have a lot of talent, but when hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I mean, that's just the harsh reality of it. And these guys, maybe on paper aren't as talented as the team I had last year, but they're the hardest working group of people I've ever been around, ever. And attention to detail like I've never seen in my racing career. I've given them all the parts and pieces that they've needed. The one piece that you never know when you go into what I did, I started with 0 going into this season, right? Is the chemistry. Will the chemistry work between the crew chiefs and the team? And do you have 2 crew chiefs or do you have 1 crew chief? Because a lot of times it's just 1 crew chief and the other crew chief just does what the other one says, right? And I thought I had an incredible combination with Todd and Aaron, and now I know I have an incredible combination. And when you get that chemistry, I think Coyle used to say catching lightning in a bottle, you want to try to keep it in that bottle. And I'm just very fortunate to have had the opportunity to pull together the guys that are on this car right now, a little bit out of desperation at the time, with the hopes of doing something special. And man, from the first run in testing in Gainesville to now, they ain't doubting us anymore, I can tell you that much. And that's what makes this even more special to compete, to your point, in the top 3, because that's what it takes to win the championship. You've got to be in the game, you've got to be in the conversation. You don't have to go in number 1 on the points, but you've got to be in the game, and you have to have proven that hot track, cold track, you can perform. And that's exactly what we've done. So I really believe the best is yet to come for this team. When you look at how, we're in the infancy, competing against teams that have had thousands of runs under their belt together, right? Like Cap's leaving. I mean, he's one of my heroes in the sport, quite frankly. And then you go up and be able to beat those guys with a brand new team. It's pretty cool.
At the beginning of the season, we could already see the massive improvements that your team has made compared to last year. And as the season has gone on, you guys have kind of just planted your feet and kept making these impressive runs, and it's gotten better and better as the season's gone on. Kind of take us through the progression of what this team has done so far this year to get you to where you are, because now you're having back-to-back number 1 qualifiers, and it seems as each weekend goes on, you're just going further into the bracket than you were previously.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with where we ended last year in the season. We had some great runs. I think we ran 366 in Pomona, and we worked throughout the off season with new programs, mechanical and software alike, and put them into testing. And I think we were the team that tested the most in the off season, every opportunity we could down in Gainesville. I think 27 runs before the season started. And we ended up with a package that was not raceable. And we didn't start the year with it. We took portions of it that we thought we could build upon. And that's what has brought us to where we are today. It was actually Charlotte where we took that full package and just bit the bullet and we went, all right, everything in, like we don't want to do it right now in Norwalk. You don't want to start it in the countdown. At some point we have to commit. And so that was our committal time. And now we're going through kind of our learning progress and pains of this new program, but it's definitely paying its dividends, and that's what you see, as well as the mentality. So last year we were finding our footwork, finding groundwork, and our baseline. And this year, there's a lot more aggressive mentality. And it doesn't mean like more clutch weight, more timing, and let's just, be number 1 as much as possible. It's just instead of going up and let's just make it down the racetrack and let's go A to B, it's more of it's an acceleration game. So we need to get 0 to 60 quicker. That's where all the fast cars get their time. And it's great going maybe for those 337 miles an hour and 36, but really in order to go fast down there, you need to go fast at the start, and there's a lot of systems in play to 300 feet that equate to having really quick ETs, and that's what we focused on.
Again, round 1 starts at 10 a.m. Gates open at 7:30. It's going to be a very long day. Hopefully the rain holds off. I doubt it. Hopefully we can get it into the night and get it finished there. But regardless, I have a lot to cover for tomorrow. I have a lot to look forward to. Again, the series has been fantastic, and we have a lot to want to pay attention to tomorrow. If you have NHRA TV, watch that. If you have Fox, the network, it's going to be on Fox, not FS1. Be sure to watch that, because this event is going to be fantastic. We have hot weather and high speeds. What else could you want from it? Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, follow me on my social media pages, Mighty Mac 03, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, and share it so we can get the message of drag racing out to the rest of the world so we can keep packing these stands like they have all year. I'll be back here tomorrow. How rude of them. How rude of them. Until next time, this is Mighty Mac, and I'll see you tomorrow.